Yeah, I can.
Hi, good afternoon. You're probably seeing this notification pop up on your computer or your phone. Please tap the link and join us today for Friday's live art demonstration from Upbeat Artworks. Before we get into it, we always like to talk just a bit about who we are as an organization. We are a part of Artbeat Studio. We are a not-for-profit, registered charity, and we really believe in the healing power of art. We think building a creative community and using art is a beautiful way to find supports for our mental health. All of us live with our mental health. It's a spectrum, it's up, it's down, and we really want to meet in the middle with our creative practice. So today, we're here to do a bit of that creative practice with you. Before we get to that, we actually want to highlight one of our artists, an alumni who's gone through our programming, Lora Roberts, a really cool artist who does a lot of work with polymer clay. And I think we'll go show some of their stuff.
Yes.
So I'll flip the phone. Wee. Hi.
Hi, happy Friday. We're here to show Laura's artwork, and Laura's here as the special guest today.
Hello!
So there are amazing and beautiful things that are in our store. These are mostly jewelry, earrings. We have a pin. There are studs and longer earring hooks. And Laura can talk way more about this because Laura is super passionate about what she does. Laura went through Artbeat program, was in a group 25 in 2017. And we have some of the pieces that Lora brought to us, to Artbeat store, but also Lora has her own website. It's the business name is Canifora Crafts, and everyone is actually able to message Lora on Instagram and custom order anything you'd like, because Lora has a variety of amazing things. I went through the website and I was in awe. You know, just so many
It's incredible.
amazing things that are, I don't know how Lora does it, but she'll explain some
Yeah.
of it today. But I never did anything like that, miniature, anything this size. So it's the first time ever I'm trying something like this.
Yeah.
And I will take the tray so Laura can talk
Sure.
a bit more about the techniques. The side I know nothing about.
Yeah, as we're talking about Laura, we just pointed out that we actually have Laura with us today. Hi, Laura.
Oh, hi.
How's it going?
Good. Going good. Going good.
Good, excellent. So we're gonna do a little bit of polymer clay work together as a little group.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to just kind of go over a little bit of like a one-on-one on working with it, working with polymer clay, and kind of go over some tips and tools. And then we can hop into making some little creations today, some jewelry or maybe some pins or something.
Yeah, right on.
Whatever your kind of heart desires. So polymer clay is a plastic-based clay. It differs from like a ceramic in that ceramic is stone. It's natural materials. This is essentially plastic. So it starts off very soft, very pliable. Sorry, these might be a little cold, so I'm actually going to crack these open. And it hardens in the oven at a very low temperature. It is a non-toxic product, thankfully. So you sculpt whatever you want to make, and then you pop it in the oven for about an hour, very, very low temperature, and it hardens up and is very, very durable. So instead of firing it in a kiln at very, very high temperatures. With polymer clay, you're always going to want to kind of give it a little conditioning before you start whatever project you're working on. So that would be just kind of warming it up in your hands, mixing the polymerizing agent back into the clay itself, and you want to work with that till it kind of becomes a kind of like bubblegummy texture a little bit more solid than that, but it should be smooth and should not just like crumble in your hands. There's also some really neat products you can get from the polymer clay companies that do that. Like you can get liquid clays as well, and you can use those to either like adhere pieces to each other or create some really neat effects. So I've got ones from Sculpey and one from Fimo. The Sculpey one you can find basically anywhere. Michael's and Artist Emporium here in Winnipeg both sell them. Fimo, the Fimo liquid gel is my favorite one. I'm really biased. I bought like a case of it like forever ago.
What did you buy?
I got that at Artist Emporium. But they have to special order it in, but you can also find it like online pretty easily. But Sculpey products are super easy to find. Those are available at like Michael's Artist Emporium, internet. Like you can find them pretty much anywhere. They're really, really easy to find. As for the clay itself, Artist Emporium, Michael's, and oddly enough, Superstore sells really cheap little starter sets.
Oh, of the Fimo.
Of the Fimo, and they come in, I think, I want to say it's like 12 colors.
Okay.
And they're like $15, so that's a really kind of great way to get started on your kind of like color palette. So some tools I bought today as well to work with stuff. I work primarily in miniature. So all my tools are really, really small. So when I was starting, I pretty much started off with 3 things, and that was a toothbrush, toothpicks, and sewing needles.
Wow.
So definitely got and like a little X-Acto knife blade, which is here somewhere, and I don't know where underneath here. There we go. And like a little X-Acto knife blade. So these are kind of my like beginner's toolkit. You don't need anything fancy to really get started in polymer clay. And then like whatever rolling pin too also helps. So you don't need anything really, really fancy. You can get kind of fancy with it, but you don't need to. I've also brought in some dotting tools and sculpting tools. These ones are from Sculpey. They are like the Sculpey brand ones. They have like a dotting side and a sculpting side to them. They come in a pack and they're $25 approximately for those. But you don't need them. You can also get dotting tools for, say, nail art as well. Pass those over to you. You can get those, especially if you're working in miniature. You can get those from like the dollar store.
Yeah.
I think one of them came from Dollar Tree. Some of them came from like internet. Again, really easy to find. And then I got some color shapers.
Oh, that's awesome.
So these are a silicone tipped tool. And they make it act like a little fingertip, basically. So when you're really trying to get into like nooks and crannies of your sculptures, it really helps to smooth it out where, you know, a big chunky finger can't go.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. I love that.
And again, I think I got some of them, the little blue handled ones, these I got on the internet. They were really dirt cheap. And the other ones I got, I think, at Artist Emporium as well. So, like the actual like color shaper brand ones, a little pricey, but like you can find them. They're so all in all, it's like a really accessible hobby and a really accessible art medium to work in, because it's kind of everywhere. It did also have kind of like a big resurgence over lockdowns and stuff when people were like, I need to craft or I'm gonna lose it. So a lot of people picked it up, so it's really easy to find now. But yeah, so I have done polymer clay work, so probably since like 2007 I started working with polymer clay, and only gotten better since then. I'd like to say, at least I'd like to think. So I was going to show off a couple techniques today. I was going to show how to do a blend as a kind of first step. So these 2 pieces here are made using a teardrop blend, which is a technique where you basically make a couple teardrops out of clay and then you roll it and fold it and roll it and fold it and roll it and fold it until it becomes a smooth gradient.
Beautiful.
So,
I love that gradient. Yeah.
And then, so it looks really impressive. Again, really easy to do. So, and then I was going to talk about some cookie cutters and some mica powders and such that we've got as well to kind of accent. So, if everyone wants to kind of just get in there and grab some colors, I'll kind of yap while while we sculpt. So I'm gonna definitely hit that with my elbow if it's there. So maybe we should move it.
All right.
I'm a huge klutz, so oh, I think you have some from you. So what color would you like to start with? We can do a bunch of colors.
If we're going for a gradient, can I have the yellow, orange, and red?
Yeah,
Ooh.
we'll do that first. So grab a little bit, like a good like almond-sized amount. We won't do like a huge piece, but I'll show you how to do it.
Nice.
And then you're gonna want to just kind of warm up each color in your hands a little bit, like with your fingertips. And between the red and the orange, I'm gonna suggest as a top tip, you're gonna want to take a baby wipe and just kind of clean your fingers off in between, because the color kind of will not stain, but will transfer a little bit, especially with really bold colors like blue and black and red, dark purples, and like depends on the brand too. Will kind of get a little bit in the cracks of your fingers and kind of just bleed over into the other pieces. So you want to keep them really like pristine. It's a good tip to just kind of wipe in between colors. So I'm gonna show off. I'm gonna do two really like different colors to do kind of just really like bold gradient images. If you want to pick a couple colors too, go ham. Feel free to pick whatever you want. I'm gonna take a little. Whoop. And then I can also talk about color mixing in general as well. So if you know color theory, your color wheel and your, complementary and whatever colors, that's always a good place to start. Polymer clay is really cool because you can pretty much mix any color imaginable with even just a handful of colors. So for my miniatures and such, I mostly blend my own colors. Like I'll take a base color and then I will mix it into its own shade. So when you're doing miniature work, especially if you're doing like really realistic stuff, I find my favorite thing to do is mix with a little bit of like brown or tan colored clay into like a solid color. So say I'm making like a cabbage and I don't want my green to be so neon. You'd work a little bit of white and a little bit of tan into it, and then it mutes the color a little bit so it's not as like, wow, that's green fresh out of the package. And same with working, there's a couple different types of clay as well. Sorry, I'm rambling about this. But you can do, another technique I really like is there is a translucent clay you can buy. And Fimo makes it, Sculpey makes it. Most brands will have their own translucent, sorry, rocking the table here. And you can mix your color basically like 4-to-1, 5-to-1, translucent and colored clay, and the translucent clay just has no pigment in it. So it basically just is the base of it, and you can get some really neat effects with that. So if, again, using the example of a cabbage, when you like hold up a leaf of cabbage, it does have a little bit of translucency to it. So mixing the color into the translucent gives it that like more realistic, lets some light through, and kind of makes it a little more like juicy looking and a little more, a little less chalky.
Okay.
So I forgot to bring translucent clay. I was packing in the dark, so. But that's kind of like a little more advanced. You gotta really kind of get a feel for it. I think there was a piece that was on the tray that was like bacon. That was like translucent clay and stacked up into different layers and then sliced. In different like quantities of color mixed into it, and then dusted with some chalk pastel. Yeah. So that's a really good way to do it. So another thing about polymer clay is that you can add a lot of things to it. Back on the translucent clay, you can do alcohol inks into translucent clay, or even into some colored clay. It just shows up better in the translucent clay. You can get some really neat like sea glassy effects with that. And then you can also mix like mica powders, small amounts of acrylic paint, but that's like I don't usually do that. I usually like wait till the end to paint pieces after they're baked.
Right.
But there's some different techniques you can use where you kind of like chop up a ton of, this is not what I use very often, but chop up a ton of polymer clay into little chunks, and then you coat it in liquid clay and a little bit of acrylic paint, and it binds together, and you kind of mash it into a log, and then cut it up, and it looks like marble. So you can go from like anywhere from like again, it's a very versatile product and medium to work in. You can really go from like, I want to do faux stones to like, I want to do tiny cakes.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can kind of do anything with it. So now that we've had a chance to kind of warm up some of the clay a little bit, I'm going to show a little teardrop blend situation here.
Okay.
So you kind of take your colors, and you do that. You work one end into a little point, little knobby little teardrop
Okay,
situation. And then you work your other colors, like, and you can do 2, 3, 4 colors in this way. And then you just kind of, oh, this got a little chunky. You just kind of roll it out, and then you kind of just even it off a little bit, so it'll kind of work into equal parts, to triangles once you kind of roll it out.
Yeah.
A little bit, and then I take a little blade because it does stick a little bit. Like it is a very tacky product, but a nice sharp blade will do. So then you fold it over a couple of times.
Yeah.
Always in the same kind of direction. Like you don't want to fold it this way if you're folding it this way.
Right.
So, and then you kind of give it another little roll out. And you're going to do this probably anywhere from like 8 to 20 times.
Okay.
And then it'll start to be less two separate colors, and it'll start to blend in the middle. Like if I show here, I don't know if you can see it. There's like a little blend there in the middle.
Yeah.
So it'll start to mix together in the center and form a gradient.
Very cool. Yeah, you can start to see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I only have 2 rolling pins, unfortunately. You could probably use
Sure.
the side of that too. Yeah, that'll do. That'll do. It's just a little more elbow grease on it. And then, so this is a teardrop blend. If you're doing a big piece, it's also known as like a Skinner blend. Is like named after the like artist who kind of popularized the technique of it. Was his name's the last name Skinner. I don't know the full story behind it. But yeah, you just kind of work it until it.
Oh yeah, you can see the blend.
Until it blends out.
Neat.
And then you just want to kind of keep it. You can kind of squish it in if it's getting a little too wide. And then you just, again, make sure you want to fold it the same direction each time. You can also get clay-specific pasta machines, essentially. That would do a lot of the rolling work for you. But I work so small that I tend to not really need them. But if you're working at a larger scale or on like a bigger sculpture, it's definitely handy to have if you're working on a big piece.
Okay, so I do not know why, it just separates.
Separates here. You gotta warm it up a little bit more.
A little bit more, okay.
Here, I'll show you. So we're gonna take this and we're gonna take the blade.
Mm-hmm,
We're gonna do that.
okay,
And we're just gonna fold it over.
okay,
And then you're just gonna kind of warm it up in your hands a little bit more.
okay.
And then kind of just square it off a little bit and just make sure it stays nice and soft.
Mhm.
And then you're gonna fold it this way.
Okay.
Yeah, the same direction each time.
Is there an easy way to fix it if you accidentally?
Yeah. Yeah, you just mash it back together.
Okay.
Super easy. Yeah, it's really like quite forgiving unless you're doing something really really technical, but like kind of like a really basic thing like this, very, very forgiving.
Nice.
Yeah, no, that's looking really great.
Thanks.
And if it kind of gets a little like wild and swirly, just like flip it over. Flip it over and give it a couple more flattenings, and then you are good to go. So this is kind of,
Oh yeah, look at that.
so that's after, I don't know, 8 times? I can't remember, I lost count. But yeah, it'll eventually smooth out the more you fold it over,
Yeah.
and the more you roll, and it'll eventually blend out to be quite smooth of a gradient. And then I also have these that I brought that are thickness guides. So I have a couple homemade ones, which are just really big popsicle sticks. And then I have some that I bought that are chunks of acrylic. And there's 4.5 millimeter and 3 millimeter ones. So these are really good for creating a consistent width in your slab of clay here.
Yeah, I have more like a thin layer. It's not anything slab-like.
You just kind of gotta. This is too thin. I made myself. Yeah. So these ones, you would just kind of. What you can do with yours is roll it up into a log and then kind of push it in together and smush it back, so it gets
Yeah,
to be a little fatter. And
yeah,
then
it gets compressed without
Yeah.
mixing.
yeah.
There had to be a trick for that.
Yeah, it, again, very, very forgiving.
Good afternoon.
So this is kind of, again, midway, but you would get a little bit, like I would work it a little bit more and get it a little smoother, but for, time. Show you what to kind of do after this. So then you can kind of take any sort of like cutter, or you can get ones that have details on it, or you can just use like a basic shape. You can get some really neat 3D printed cutters nowadays that are like embossed. So when you cut, like on these nice ones, when you cut, it leaves like an embossed design on there, and then cuts out the outside. So you kind of get a little more detail. But this
Cutter plus a mold at the same
cut,
time.
yeah, basically. So I'm gonna actually do that. I just will roll this up and stretch it up. Yeah, that's looking great. That's exactly it.
And then Monday the 31st.
I'm just gonna
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
You're doing okay. You're okay. Just gotta keep working. Just gotta keep working.
It just doesn't. It gets there randomly, but I did not clean my hands when I was doing the
Oh
first
dear.
one.
Oh dear. Yeah.
So it just went intentionally, unintentionally, just over. So I have blue randomly
Oh, that's
spread
fine.
out.
That's fine. It'll just more blue.
Yeah. So I didn't get the gradient the way it's supposed to be.
That's okay. That's okay. But you can even leave it a little streaky, and it looks pretty too. So.
I'm getting a very random insert of pink. And
Oh, it'll do that. It'll do that. Yeah. No worries. It's fine.
Mine did that way worse partway through, and now it's become super smooth.
Yeah, that's really good. That looks great.
Thank you.
So I've got my little kind of half swirled. I'm going for like a little Saturny look, I guess.
Oh, cute.
Planetary kind of vibe to mine. And then I was going to show you, I brought some, again, when you're adding stuff to clay, mica powders are a really fun thing to add. To the top, this you would put onto a uncured piece of clay, and it'll stick. And it's quite easy to do. So I've got just a little bit of Perlex powder. Again, Artist Emporium, sometimes Michael's has it, internet. My 3 favorite places to shop. And then you can just kind of dust that on to the uncured clay, and it'll add a little bit of shimmer to it.
Wow.
And you can do the same thing with ground chalk pastel. You just kind of take the edge of a blade, and like an X-Acto blade, and you just kind of like scrape it, and it'll make dust. And then you brush that kind of chalky dust onto your clay, and it's a really great way to add shading or a little more depth to any sort of pieces that are very
I finally
small.
got it.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, yay.
Oh, nice.
Cool. And I have the really swirly look now, like a flower.
Yeah, and
like a sea something.
yeah.
Okay.
So feel free
Got it.
to do whatever you want. With
Okay,
this,
so
and then-
what do I do with the measuring sticks again?
So these you can put on either side of your kind of clay piece. If you roll this up a little bit into like a little sausage and then kind of squish the sides in,
Yeah.
that'll get you a little bit more of like a log shape, and then you can roll it out into a flat. And then these you just use as a thickness guide.
Is it possible for me to actually, I don't know, if it's not smooth, what do I do?
Just smooth it with your hands. Just smooth it with your hands.
Okay.
Yeah, it's again very, very forgiving. And just
Okay.
kind of smoosh it back together.
Uh-huh.
And then you kind of just would want to press this in and kind of work it into a log, or approximately a log shape.
Okay.
And you can kind of fold the ends if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
And then just here, let's see. I'm just gonna give this a little whirl here. You can just kind of press it, and you can even take this and just kind of use it to square it up a little bit. And then you want to just use your thickness guides and put those on either side, and then you kind of just give it a roll over, and then it'll even it up.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can put these again on either side,
Okay, and then roll.
and then
on
roll
top.
it. Yeah, roll the.
Oh,
in.
okay, yeah,
I see.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's great too. Like if you're making
Okay, that makes
like
sense.
jewelry or
Yeah.
something like a pendant.
Oh
When
my
you,
god, I love how it turned out now.
Amazing. Yeah, that looks great.
Yeah, those little
That's
shims are so
awesome.
useful.
They're so useful. I only recently invested in them, and I was using the popsicle sticks for a long time. They work, but they're so much easier if you've got a thicker guideline. Because you don't want your pieces. Polymer clay you can bake quite thin,
Uh-huh.
but I find that you want to stick in the like 3 to 4 millimeter if you're doing, or you can go thinner, but I tend to stick a little bit thicker with some of my pieces, just because it can, like, it is meant to be quite flexible when baked, but sometimes just to keep it even and nice, you just kind of do whatever.
Okay, so I got this piece.
Yeah.
What should I do now?
So I've got some little cutters. I've got just like a circular one. I've got a little star one. I've got an itty bitty heart one. I've got a little banner. I've got a little speech bubble, some circles.
And what if I don't have the shapes? Do
You
I
can
just use the
Yeah, use the cutter. Yeah, cut whatever you
I
want.
have your shims and rolling pin, please.
Yeah.
Why, thank you.
So I'm just showing off the little basic thing of this little kind of
okay, yeah,
little,
yeah.
then with the Rolex on it.
Cute.
So if you wanted to say turn this into like a pendant or something, I have a couple ideas to kind of finish this off. So what you could do is you could take like another color and roll it out into a snake and put it around, and then I think is exactly what I'm going to do actually. I'm going to blend up a little bit of a kind of a warm yellow. So I'm going to do a little bit of orange, a little bit of yellow.
Is it too early to talk about this?
No, I was getting to the things. I was actually going to show you how to. Yeah. So when I'm done putting the little frame on this part, I've got these little itty bitty eye screws. So what you're going to do with those is put a little bit of liquid clay to just kind of hold it in place, and then you'll screw it actually right into the side of the clay. So the liquid clay will keep it from like falling out when it's baked. Because it'll eventually things kind of come unscrewed, but that'll hold it in place a little better. And then this is just kind of has that little bit of grip, so it stays in. And then you use that to have it. I don't have a piece with that on there over here.
What are you looking for?
The bottles. The bottles? Yeah. Because I think those have eye pins on them. So this is a little eye screw. Yeah.
Cool.
So if you're looking at this one, it's got on the top of the bottle there.
Oh yeah.
So it screws in there, and then you can hang jewelry findings off of it. So like earring hooks or additional beads or whatever you're kind of wanting to work with. So, I guess let you guys finish these when you finish them up. I guess James, you'll post them somewhere or have
Yes.
them somewhere for everyone to see.
Yeah.
Kind of the finished.
Yeah, once
product.
once we're done, we'll keep working past, like, we'll finish up at 2, but we'll keep working on
Beautiful.
stuff, and we'll post pictures of our end results.
Beauty.
Pass me two of those little screw pieces.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then you can always put like a screw on one side and a screw on the other, and then connect it with a jump ring, so it makes a little like dangle kind of situation. And possibilities are pretty much endless, and like making stuff into jewelry is pretty easy too. So. Yeah.
So should I use the pin to poke a hole first?
You can just to kind of get it started, and then kind of gently screw the eye pin in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's some bunch of other tools that are really fun, again, for polymer clay. There's like extruders, which have a little tube and a
Oh,
crank,
yeah.
and you
Yep.
crank it out, and it's good for making like snakes of like an even thickness if you want. I'm trying to think what else, like some really wild, I was talking to the cookie cutters before that have kind of like, with 3D printing technology that is amazing, and they make some really neat cookie cutters, so it kind of like cuts and stamps the clay at the same time, like on
Nice.
the bottles and on the dice ones.
Yeah, so what's the best tool to use to even the edges?
I would say your fingers, or one of these guys, like the little tools. So you can use that to kind of just like smooth things out, because again, it acts like a little mini fingertip.
I like it more than my fingers.
Yeah.
I feel it like, yeah.
So so like when you get into the miniature stuff, it's kind of just, I take a lot of inspiration from real life. I like to go to like bakeries, Pinterest, recipe websites, restaurants, and just kind of like take pictures of my food like a millennial. But I have an ulterior motive of like using them as references. So like I really like to go and I really like sculpting like desserts. That's kind of where I got started, and my favorite thing. I got big sweet tooth, and I love cake. So I get a lot of inspiration from real life when doing like the miniature food stuff that I kind of focus on more.
Okay, so you said you're making a frame.
Yeah. So what I'm doing with mine is I'm just taking kind of like a little bit of a complementary color here, and I'm gonna just roll it out into a snake and just try and keep it as even as possible.
Okay. So if it's the same color, it's not the best idea.
Oh, you can do whatever you want. Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Ooh, I love what you're doing with your gradient, James.
That's very cool.
It's amazing, yeah.
Let's try to make a little, show the gradient with the
Yeah.
dots.
Okay, so I'm just rolling something like this, which is mixed as well, just from
Yeah,
the
that's
leftovers of what I
That's
have.
fine. And then I'm just doing this little like roughly as thick as the flat piece that I did, and then I'm going to, where's my little blades? There they are. Just kind of stretch it and just kind of make it as even as possible, and then blend it together a little bit with my finger and a blending tool here.
Okay, I don't have enough, so I need to just
Just
make
roll it a little
thinner.
thinner,
That's
or
right.
add a little bit more clay, yeah. And then I was going to just kind of brush this with a little bit of the gold that I brought, the gold mica powder, to kind of give it a little bit of a metallic look.
Okay, so I have something like this.
Yeah,
So I can
shoot.
just roll it on top, or?
Yeah, you can give it a little roll just to kind of smooth it out a little bit if you want.
Mhm.
Just want to
And
make sure I
then-
get all the red and whatnot off of it. Do you want these?
Yes, I guess. Thanks.
So then I'm just gonna gently brush on some of this, I think Aztec gold. It's just a really pretty shade. I don't know. I think it makes it pretty. So I haven't worked with mica powders in a while because I don't usually make some like really sparkly stuff, but I love them. So.
Can I make a second gradient?
then to touch back on the liquid clay, you can also use that as like a bit of a glue for your pieces. So if I wanted to add, especially because now that I've dusted this with the mica powder, if I wanted to add another element to it on top, I would take a little bit of the liquid clay and work that on with one of the little fine silicone tools and kind of put it where my design is going to be, and then I would take the other piece and stick it down with that. So the liquid clay will kind of bond the two pieces together instead of just having it kind of just be on top.
Okay, so I got something like
Yeah, that looks great. That looks really good. That's very cool.
That's fun.
Oh, I love that.
I like how that looks really cool. I'm just gonna, and then you can also just clean the tools with a little bit of baby wipe. Baby wipes are your best friend. When I discovered those as like a tool,
So
I was
good.
like, oh, I was washing my hands in between every color with like dish soap, and I was like, this is
The hands,
destroying my hands.
It's hard.
And then I was like, oh, baby wipes, they're meant to keep things soft, and they
And you
also
don't have to
Yeah.
get up.
and you don't have to get up every single time. So a real game changer.
You're actually saving the hands.
Yeah,
Not just the
yeah,
hands, but-
yeah. So this is kind of what I've got so far.
Okay, so I can use some makeup powder and
Yeah, absolutely. I would say go to town. I've got mostly warm colors, but I've got a really neat one that is a green base, but it has a blue shift to it. So it kind of has like a blue flash in the right light, which is one that I really, really like. And I have a purple one.
What would you recommend for here?
Let's see. What do you want to do with it? Like,
I don't know.
do you want to use it as a base? Because we could also do something like some little flowers on there, or stars, or we could put some makeup powder. Oh, I have just like a pearl, like a clear, like a not a clear pearl, but like a white pearl one as well.
I want you to try the color, but I also want you to try. I don't know if you're going to show the liquid
Yeah.
today. So
Yeah, I can.
What can I do with that?
So I like to take a little bit out, and like I said, I was going to put maybe some stars on mine. So I'm going to take this little bit of clay here, and I've got a little mold. This I got, I don't remember. I think I got it off of someone on Etsy. But I didn't make this one. I either got it on Etsy or a miniature supply place that I order from quite frequently.
It's like some kind of rubber.
Yeah, it's like a 2-part silicone rubber. I wouldn't recommend baking in it, but I would recommend like just using it to make little shapes. So make a little star.
Here, let me hold this.
Just
I'll
a
hold
star.
this piece up just to the camera.
This piece.
The one you.
Oh yeah,
that one,
yeah. There we go.
This is a little progress pic. I love that shimmer. Wow.
That's the Pearlex mica.
Beautiful.
And again, you can use like so many things to make different colors. So with the liquid clay, you can put a little dot and then put your kind of design right on top of it,
Okay, so it works like
like a glue basically, like a bakeable glue.
that's awesome. Wow.
Yeah, like slip with clay. Basically, the same kind of idea is that it helps affix pieces, but you can also just bake. Well, yeah, you can do that with slip too, like slip casting and stuff. You can also put that into liquid clay into like a bakeable mold. They've really gotten quite fancy with it in recent years. That it can be just like baked directly in some molds, and then you can have these kind of very like flexible, very intricate pieces. I've never tried that before. Now I want to, and I'm like, what if I made all the things? Yeah. So they have a number of colors of liquid clay nowadays, which is really, really cool. Because when I started years and years and years ago, they had just like liquid clay and like white liquid clay, and now they have like tints you can buy to tint liquid clay and solid clay that are directly from like the Sculpey brand. They have several like pearlescent colors of liquid clay that are really, really beautiful when baked. And then they have like solid colors, white, translucent. You can get some really cool effects with them, but I only brought the clear, but when doing miniatures, some of the liquid clay is really useful because it's really good for different effects, like soup broth. You can mix liquid clay with the solid clay and make kind of like this really goopy texture that makes a really good like whipped cream look or frosting look to it. So it's really, again, a very versatile thing. So it's not just for gluing. It's got lots of purposes.
I feel like I need a little bit of liquid to spread it out better.
Yeah.
So which liquid should I use? Is water good to use?
No, you don't need to. I would say, let's see. You just need a little bit more and just kind of work it in a little bit more. Just use a little bit more of the powder.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't have to spread this out.
No, just give it a little.
Spread it a little.
Yeah, spread it a little more, but also just if you need a little more, it'll get quite smooth. You just kind of have to buff it in a little bit more. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll take a bit more, or maybe I'll
Do a little bit of the pearl and make a little gradient.
Little
That'd be
gradient.
beautiful.
Okay. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. I love this.
Yeah.
This is really fun stuff.
Yeah, again, it's a super like beginner friendly material, and it's also, but like you can get up to some really cool, really professional, really like wild stuff. There's one technique that I want to maybe show off on another live or at a workshop called caning, and it's
Pictures of that.
it's so cool. So basically what that is that you stack up your colors into a big log. If you've ever seen like old-fashioned candy being made, you stack it up into a big log and then you like pull it and stretch it out until it's as big as you want it to be, and then you slice it up.
Yeah.
And then it makes like one continuous image that you could just have like replicas of.
Yeah.
And you can do really cool stuff with that. I usually do it for making like sushi.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But you can also do some really, really interesting, like repetitive patterns, like milfoil work, kind of stuff like that with it too. And you can get
Venetian glass.
Venetian glass and stuff like that. You can kind of replicate that, and you can get some really, really interesting effects.
Yeah.
And really intricate designs as well when you use the caning. But I was just going to show how to do like a candy cane.
Late
Good way to start.
90s,
Yeah.
emo bracelets were super popular.
Yeah.
Those really elaborate patterns
Chains and-
came.
yeah, exactly.
So I do not know, it's not as even as I wanted it. So is it possible to fix it after I put the makeup powder?
Yeah. Yeah, you can give it a little,
Just to
like a
roll
little,
it
just,
with the brush? Or
yeah, just like roll it out a little bit and then,
Oh wait.
yeah. And then just kind of, you just might need to put a little bit more of the powder on just to kind of even out the finish. But
Okay.
I'm gonna make some little dots for this and finish this one, I think.
Because now after I put the makeup powder, it kind of creates a little gradient with the colors that I put.
Yeah,
But
that'll-
also have like dots, so I don't know. Is this something?
You can like pick them out a little bit, but I would put something on top of that maybe, and then make it like a cabochon kind of situation. Where you can. I've also seen people do. Speaking of cabochons, where you kind of make a centerpiece, and then people have done like traditional beadwork around them as like kind of like with the clay work as a focal point. I've seen that done. I've seen. Like wire, my aunt does wire wrapping on clay pieces.
Okay. Yeah.
So again, like you can, sky's kind of the limit with what you can do with it.
So for now I have a vase shape.
Let's see. Yeah, and then just kind of push the sides in with a flat tool, and then
Yeah.
yeah. Oop, this is. stop here with mine because I don't want to overwork it. But I got a little kind of spacey, planety kind of vibe to mine
Cute.
with some little dots and some little stars.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
So I've got the little pin in there. I'm gonna give it a little turn, and I'm gonna put a little bit of liquid clay just kind of around it, just to kind of give it a little extra reinforcement. Ooh, the back actually looks pretty nice. Sometimes the back can get a little interesting, but
Okay,
try and make.
I can cut the shapes out now. 'Cause
Yeah,
it
beautiful.
won't- Yeah. Okay, I don't know. So if this is like this rolled out, so this is way too thin for.
Maybe a little, but you can either like what are you wanting to do?
So I'm thinking about just cutting out any random.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can still cut it out. I'd say if you want it thicker, you might have to fold it and give it a little bit of a roll just to kind of make it a little thicker, and then cut from whatever just to even it out. Yeah, not too thin. Oop, dropping mine. There we go. Yeah, that's a little thicker. That would be a good thickness to start with. And then some of the mica will kind of work in there, so if you wanted to put more of the mica on there again, yeah, just it'll just work into the clay a little bit. So a little, I think this is a strawberry or a raspberry. I don't know which one. Oh, it's a strawberry, I think. I was little itty bitty molding. I don't even know where this came from. It was just in my bag. But yeah, any other questions that anyone has, or any other like thoughts?
I don't know. So far, I'm just doing something I never did before, and
Yeah,
I just
it's
play
really-
rather than do anything.
Yeah, it's
in
really
particular,
cool.
So I can just make it thicker with.
Yeah, just kind of fold it up and squish it back together, and then just even it out.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, really forgiving, really easy to work with. And you can kind of get like a really, really wide range of results. If I was going to say for suggestions for other people, if you're wanting to get started with polymer clay, there's a couple really good folks on the internet. One is Blue Bottle Tree.
Okay.
She does a lot of, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, other than Blue Bottle Tree, but she does a lot of like basics, cane work, brand comparisons, because there's actually quite a few different brands of polymer clay. The ones I brought today are Fimo and Sculpey Primo, but there's like Kato, Pardo, Cernit. There's like several different kinds depending on where you are and like what country you're in, but most of it, widely available ones are Sculpey and Fimo. But she does like brand comparisons, basic technique. A lot of it's free, some of it's paid, but a lot of her stuff is tutorials and stuff are free. There's lots of folks on YouTube that are really, really handy to watch. I know when I started watching YouTube tutorials, my confidence and my skills grew like exponentially just watching other people make stuff and being like, oh, that's how they figured out how to do it. It makes sense. So it's really good to just kind of like watch everywhere and see a bunch of different techniques and kind of pick and choose and pick where you're kind of getting inspiration from.
I think I can cut it out now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know, a star.
Star would be pretty.
Maybe 2 stars, if I can fit that.
Yeah. Kind of talk about when you can get stuff.
You mentioned a lot of the stuff came from artists imported.
Yeah, they do have quite a bit of a selection there. They have a really good selection of female products there. They used to have Sculpey, but the last time I was there, they didn't have any. But that is at like Michael's, you could find definitely a big Sculpey selection. They have like quite a wide selection.
Do you find different brands handle different?
Yes, definitely. Primo is really easy to work with, but tends to be a little firmer. Fimo Soft, which is the majority of the colors that I brought today, tends to be a little softer, but really easy to work with. Fimo Professional line is quite firm, quite crumbly, and takes like a very extensive conditioning to kind of be workable, but it is a little more durable. Stuff like Sculpey 3 is like, it's hard to work with because it is so gummy. It's very sticky and very brittle once baked. It's a good like, give it to your kids. Let your kids go crazy with it because it tends to be a little cheaper, a little less expensive. But it isn't as durable, and again, really like gummy and gooey. Can get a little gooey, especially if you have very warm hands or are working in a very warm room. Cernet is another brand that you can find at Michael's of clay. I've only ever worked with like 1 or 2 colors of it, and I find it's a little stiffer as well, but not as crumbly as Fimo Professional. And then there's like the Craftsmart Michael's brand, which I find is really is very similar to Sculpey 3 in the way it handles and the way it bakes. But you can mix Sculpey 3 and like Craftsmart clay into like say a translucent from a different brand in certain quantities. Just make sure you're paying attention to baking times. So I was going to talk about baking times. So typically I bake my pieces at a like 230 degree oven, like Fahrenheit, I hope it's Fahrenheit, for about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the thickness and what is being, like how many things are on the tray. But usually I shoot for like 45 minutes on like a lower temperature than the higher temperature sometimes listed, and like a little bit of a longer bake. You can bake in a home oven really easily. That's, I find, the best and most reliable way to bake up Sculpey. And if you are worried about, well, I'm putting plastic in my oven, again, it is non-toxic. If you are worried though, just tent it with some tin foil, and then wait till you've removed it to remove the tin foil, because it will have like a little bit of a smell. But I've baked with it for like, I've worked with it for years, baked it in a home oven for years and had no problems. But like again, if people are like worried, it's really easy to take precautions and prevent it from getting kind of crazy.
That's good to know. That's a good,
again, a little lower and a little longer than some of the packaging says. I think Fimo has 8 million languages on it, and it's very small. 265 for like Fimo products, but Sculpey is sometimes a little lower. But I again tend to go like 230. My oven, it also really depends on how hot your oven goes, because ovens can be a little wonky. My oven bakes really hot, so that's why I usually turn it down lower, because otherwise it just like gets kind of wild. But usually I find like 230, 235, 240 is a good point.
Can I use this with the mica?
Yeah, you can. Or you can use a little paintbrush.
Or a little paintbrush.
Yeah, I've got little itty bitty ones, and then I've got a couple ones that are a little thicker. Yeah, you can use the silicone tips, but it's also just as easy to use a paintbrush.
And I kind of feel that the tips dig down
a little bit.
So the
The brush is a
not
little
get in.
exactly. The brush is a little softer. And then once it's baked, it takes about like 5 minutes to cool down. I have barista hands from working in coffee for like several years of my life, so I kind of just like pick up pieces and I'm like, oh, that looks great. Don't do that. Don't do that. don't risk it, because it will be very like hot coming out of the oven. So you just want to like give it a chance to cool down before handling it. Sometimes it can be a little like bendy, even and a little bit brittle when it's like first out of the oven. But once it has a chance to cool down, it'll be it'll firm up again and still remain slightly flexible, but the risk of it breaking will be lower once it's cool.
I will need to watch the live to actually listen to this part because I feel like
No
it's
worries.
the whole thing.
Anyways, that looks really beautiful. I like the golden, the cool colors.
So for this one, I feel like they don't need any border. Or
Yeah.
anything, so I
just put your pins in there and a little bit of the liquid clay, the Fimo when we pass it over.
Oh.
And you just want to put a little dot just kind of around the eye pin, just to kind of here,
Great.
we'll use one of the silicone tools because the brush will get really kind of gummy on the brush. Yeah.
Okay.
So just a little dot either onto your kind of like work surface.
Okay, maybe it makes
Yeah,
sense to
yeah.
put it directly.
or directly onto the product,
Yeah.
the piece. I'm trying to think anything else that I haven't rambled about extensively yet. Paint, we kind of talked about painting stuff.
So when you're painting, so if you paint it afterwards,
Yeah.
do you have any specific tips for that?
Yeah, I would say pick just like a nice quality acrylic paint if you're going to paint on anything afterwards. Typically with paint, you're going to want to give it a little bit of a seal. So something like a Sculpey glaze or Fimo glaze, they both sell like a product for that. I use like a model paint gloss on some of my pieces because it's meant to go on plastic and tends to not be as like sticky. But I don't do a ton of painting on mine. Sometimes will use like a matte sealer,
Okay.
but like a brush on
Yeah.
one. Don't use like a spray sealant of any kind because it might react with the plastics in the clay and get like just melt it. Like if you use like a spray.
Or a liquid varnish.
Yeah, or liquid varnish. Some of them will work well with clay, and some of them won't behave very nicely. So stuff like Mod Podge you want to avoid because that for sealing in paint because that tends to dry quite tacky, and especially on the clay, it'll dry. Polymer clay, it dries quite gooey. One of my top ones is a little bit more specialty. I really like using UV resin on some pieces.
Oh yeah.
Just make sure if you're using resin to just of any kind to take precautions when using it. You want to just make sure you've got proper PPE, so gloves at the minimum. A little nice little respirator mask is really handy to have, and it should be used with most resin products. But like gloves at the bare and a respirator at the bare minimum. You can just get those at like Home Depot. Like a Home Depot one is perfectly fine.
Yeah, I usually get mine from Walmart.
Yeah, just wherever, like big box store kind of thing. And then you want to make sure you're just like keeping yourself safe. But the UV resin is really easy to use because it cures in sunlight or under a little nail lamp. So again, really easy to do. And it dries really nice and hard and really, really glossy. The only kind of downside to it is that all resin over time will yellow. Basically, no matter what. If you're going years and years with it, it will yellow slightly. But I use that for again a little bit of effect on certain things like soup broths, for example. So in like bowls of ramen or whatever that I made. So yeah, and then paints to kind of loop back around paints. Like I mentioned, I really like model paints. Some model paints, as long as they are like acrylic base and not like an oil or like solvent based kind of thing. You want to just stick with like an acrylic.
Plastic bonds to plastic
Plastic
really
bonds.
nicely.
Yep, exactly.
I like that gradient you got there, Morgan.
Thanks.
That looks really cool.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Thanks. I was kind of inspired by what you did.
Yeah, thank you.
So I just made dancing stars.
Yeah, those are cute. Those are beautiful. Yeah, no, I like the gold on there. Do you want me to put those on the tray for you?
Those are really pretty.
That's what it made.
time is it now? Jeez.
It's just about 2.
Oh, is it?
Oh, so
Oh,
we
wow.
can wrap up already.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah, okay.
Keep going without the camera.
We'll wrap up and then we will. So you can see Laura's putting this into this pan, and so these pieces we're working on are going to be baked in the oven. And what was the temperature you said?
About, depending on if you know how hot the oven kind of runs, between 230 and 240.
Okay.
And then for about, for like pieces that we're doing about this thick, I would give it like 15 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
Even like check it at like 45.
Sure.
And if they are looking good, you're good to go. For baking, I usually use either a cookie tray that is specifically designated for clay, or like a pie tin, or kind of like a little dollar store situation, little cake tin kind of thing, depending on the batch of what I'm making.
Yeah.
So,
Do you ever use like parchment paper?
Yeah, you can use parchment paper as well underneath your pieces. That'll kind of keep because it will pick up the texture of whatever it's baked on. So you kind of, if you want to keep the back matte, you want to bake it on some parchment paper,
Sure,
or even printer paper. Had one more thought and now it's gone. And then baking it, again, if you want to just like, you can tent it or you can just leave it open. And just keep an eye on it. Make sure it doesn't get burnt, because it is gross when it burns. So, I've done that before. Back on the topic of the home oven being the best, I tried it in a toaster oven, and my toaster oven had really wild peaks of how hot it got, so it just burnt everything immediately.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, please don't call the fire department on me with all the smoke in my house.
Yeah.
So,
So if I want the metal, like if I put it directly on a metal tin,
it'll have a little bit of a shine to it.
So
Yeah, so we can put, I've got some parchment paper, or we can use printer paper to kind of put a piece on. Yeah, and you can do, again, all sorts of stuff with polymer clay. You can do beads, you can do,
So yeah, that's a leftover clay I use for.
that's super cute. That's really cute. Yeah, it looks like malachite, except purple and blue. And you want, so that one, I can kind of make a little baking
Love that.
zone for this one. If you don't want a flat bottom on that one, we'll put it onto the paper.
Yeah, so I don't want the flat bottom on this.
Yeah,
one.
so that'll kind of give it it might get a little bit flat on one side. To truly make it like not have any texture, you'd want to bake it in something like some cornstarch or some baking soda, and then it will keep like a very three-dimensional piece from having like a flat spot on it. But this should be okay, because it is kind of cropping it up a little bit. So we'll just keep that one on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I didn't bring the cornstarch and stuff, but that's another fun little tip.
So we're just placing it underneath, I guess.
Yeah, so that'll just kind of keep it propped up so it has a little more, so it's not going to get flat on one
Yeah.
side.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh. Cool.
Love that. Well, thank you, Laura.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
I am happy to ramble about this for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
So,
It's beautiful.
Deep well of information.
So we'll take some pictures in a bit, but also we'll be taking these pieces over to Artbeat to bake them in the oven. So once that's complete, then we'll take some pictures again and just show the finished pieces.
And then again, you can just kind of put like earring hooks on these, or
Yeah.
a little jump ring, and then a little piece of cord to make like a pendant. Really easy, really easy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Awesome. And thank you, Laura, and thank you, Morgan, for being
Yeah,
here.
thanks everybody. Yeah,
I really needed someone who can do it better than me. And
All
thank you, James.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Thank you everybody for watching.
thanks for watching, everyone. Yeah, we'll see you next Friday.
Bye.
Bye.